Theo has turned his life into a trail of permission slips. A song lyric on the radio means yes. A delayed reply means no. A license plate means the bridge is moving. A quiet morning means nothing is working. By noon he is exhausted, not because life has asked much of him, but because every detail has been promoted into a judge. He is not living in the end. He is waiting for signs to allow him to begin. Sign chasing can feel magical at first. It gives the mind little sparks of meaning. It makes an ordinary day seem alive with messages. But when the practice turns anxious, the sparks become chains. Every coincidence must be interpreted. Every absence must be explained. Every small event becomes a referendum on whether the assumption is real. The soul never gets to rest. The deeper problem is authority. When signs become permission slips, the chosen state is no longer chosen. It is rented from the next coincidence. The person says they believe, but the belief must be renewed by outer hints every few hours. This creates a fragile spirituality, always excited and always afraid. Living in the end asks for a different posture. The end is not entered after signs approve it. The end is the state from which signs are no longer necessary for identity. Confirmation may appear and be enjoyed. Synchronicity may feel beautiful, but the state does not bow before them. It has already moved into the inner fact. This episode is a correction for the part of the mind that has confused observation with dependence. Noticing patterns is human. Enjoying meaningful moments is human. But needing signs in order to remain faithful to the chosen state keeps the self outside the end. The end becomes something watched from a distance rather than occupied. Neville Goddard's language around assumption and living in the end points toward occupancy. In a modern host-led commentary frame, occupancy means the identity is practiced before the world provides a scoreboard. The fulfilled state becomes the address. The person may still walk through ordinary events, but they no longer ask each event whether they are allowed to live there. Theo's phone shows the pattern. He checks a metric for his new project. A number rises and he feels chosen. An hour later, the number stalls and he feels foolish. He reads comments like weather reports from destiny. He calls it intuition, but his body knows it is surveillance. He has not chosen a state. He has chosen to be governed by signals. The first practice is to tell the truth about the cost. Sign chasing costs attention. It costs rest. It costs dignity. It makes the nervous system jump at shadows and glitter. It turns the world into a slot machine of meaning. Even positive signs can become addictive because the relief fades quickly and another sign is needed. A clean question interrupts the addiction. What would I do if I were not waiting for permission? Not what would be reckless, not what would deny common sense. What would be done from the fulfilled identity if the next sign were irrelevant? The answer may be simple. Finish the draft, send the message, rest, prepare, stop checking, live the hour. This is not a rejection of mystery. It is a restoration of order. Mystery can be welcomed without being made master. A bird on the windowsill can be beautiful without becoming a contract. A repeated number can be amusing without becoming oxygen. A sudden opening can be appreciated without turning every quiet moment into abandonment. The end state has a different emotional signature. It feels less like hunting and more like inhabiting. The person living in the end may still feel desire, but desire does not keep dragging them to the window. There is a quiet assumption beneath activity. I know where I live within. I do not need every passing detail to approve my address. A practical exercise begins with a sign fast. Choose one subject where signs have become compulsive. For 24 hours, stop asking the outer world to confirm it. Do not search. Do not interpret every coincidence. Do not refresh for emotional oxygen. Instead, return to one scene that implies the end and one action that belongs to the end. This fast may reveal withdrawal. The mind may protest. It may say, "But what if I miss guidance?" Yet guidance that produces panic may not be guidance. It may be the old state dressed in mystical clothing. The fulfilled state does not need to panic in order to be led. It can move with ordinary wisdom and inner steadiness. Theo tries the fast with his project. He chooses one morning without checking metrics. The old urge rises. He feels the hand reach for the phone. Instead of obeying, he imagines reading a message from someone helped by his work. The scene is short. It reminds him that his end is contribution, not constant measurement. Then he writes for 90 minutes. By lunchtime, nothing supernatural has happened. That is the point. He has lived from the end without asking a sign to sponsor the morning. The work feels less dramatic and more real. His identity has moved from watcher to creator. This is how sign chasing loses authority. Not through argument, but through occupied action. For relationships, the same correction applies. A person may turn response times, songs, dreams, and social media fragments into a private oracle. The heart becomes exhausted. Living in the end does not mean ignoring the actual quality of a relationship. It means not making every small signal the source of selfhood. Love requires presence, not constant divination. For money, sign chasing may appear as interpreting every small coincidence as proof of wealth arriving, then collapsing when a bill appears. A steadier practice assumes financial dignity as a state and takes grounded action from it. Numbers are reviewed, plans are made, skills are developed. The state remains chosen without demanding fireworks. For creative ambition, sign chasing can become a substitute for craft. The person looks for omens instead of finishing the work. Living in the end says, if this creative identity is real within, then create today. The sign is not the permission. The action from the state is the expression. SATs can help by giving the mind a place to rest in the end before sleep. Instead of asking tomorrow for signs, enter a small fulfilled scene tonight. Feel the naturalness, then sleep. The scene should not become a demand for the world to send proof by breakfast. It is a way of selecting the state from which tomorrow will be met. Revision can help after a sign-chasing spiral. Replay the moment when the hand reached for the phone, the search bar, or the scoreboard. See yourself pausing. See yourself smiling gently at the urge. See yourself returning to the end. This revises not the existence of desire, but the posture of dependence. A grounded caveat belongs here. Not every pattern is a message. Not every coincidence is instruction. Not every delay is a warning. A mature spiritual practice does not need to inflate ordinary life into constant coded communication. The law of assumption is strong enough to stand without theatrical interpretation. This caveat actually protects wonder. When everything has to mean something, wonder becomes labor. When signs are allowed to be occasional beauty rather than constant authority, life can feel meaningful without becoming exhausting. The end remains the center, and mystery becomes a visitor rather than a landlord. A self-audit can be asked whenever the urge to check appears. Am I seeking information or emotional permission? Information has a practical use. Emotional permission tries to decide whether you are allowed to remain in the state. If it is information, gather it cleanly. If it is permission, return to the end before touching the tool. Another question, would the fulfilled self need this sign right now? Sometimes the answer is no. The fulfilled self would be working, resting, enjoying dinner, preparing, praying, laughing, or sleeping. This answer can feel almost disappointing because anxiety wanted a ritual. Let the simplicity be the medicine. The bridge of incidents is often misunderstood at this point. It should not be turned into frantic sign collection. A bridge may unfold through ordinary events, but living on the bridge is different from inspecting every pebble to see whether it is sacred. Walk, participate. Let the end organize movement without demanding constant proof. Everyone is you pushed out can also be kept sane here. It does not require interpreting every facial expression as a cosmic report. It can simply invite responsibility for the assumptions carried into relationship. What state am I bringing? What am I expecting? What am I rehearsing? That inquiry is useful. Obsessive decoding is not. Theo begins to understand this after several days. His project still matters. Metrics still provide information. But he no longer uses them as a spiritual oxygen tank. He checks at planned times, learns what can be learned, and returns to creation. The end has become more important than the sign. That is the major shift. Signs used to decide whether he could feel faithful. Now faithfulness decides how he handles signs. A good sign is welcomed without addiction. A quiet day is met without collapse. A confusing event is interpreted through steadiness instead of panic. This is living in the end with a nervous system still learning trust. Try one direct experiment tonight. Choose the desire that has produced the most sign chasing. Then say inwardly, I release the need for permission slips. I enter the end as a state. Let one small scene imply that end. After the scene, choose one ordinary action for tomorrow that expresses it. That action matters more than hunting for proof. The next day, notice the urge to ask, is it working? That question often pulls the self back outside the end. Replace it with, how would I move if it were already accepted within? Then move that way in one concrete detail. The body learns through concrete details. It learns by not checking. It learns by finishing. It learns by resting. This is where spiritual maturity becomes quiet. The beginner may need constant excitement. The mature practitioner can tolerate ordinary time. Ordinary time is where most states are proven to be inhabited. Can you remain selected when nothing sparkles? Can you remain steady when no symbol arrives? Can you live the end on a normal afternoon? If the answer is not always yes, that is human. Return without drama. Do not turn the urge for signs into another identity of failure. Simply notice, smile if possible, and come back. The end is not fragile. It does not shatter because the mind checked once. It becomes stronger when you return honestly. Neville's influence endures because the idea of assumption challenges dependence on appearances. But the deepest challenge is not merely to believe in unseen possibility. It is to stop asking appearances for permission to believe every few minutes. That is where the practice becomes liberating. The final image is Theo walking past a row of signposts. He does not hate them. He does not need to break them. He simply stops kneeling before them. Ahead is a lit doorway, the end he has chosen. He enters, and from inside that state, the path can unfold without being interrogated at every step. So let the practice be clean. Enjoy meaningful moments when they come. Gather useful information when needed. But do not hand your identity to signs. Live in the end first. Let the next hour be proof that the state can be occupied without permission. One more boundary helps. Schedule checking instead of emotionally checking. If a result must be reviewed, choose a sane time. Outside that time, return to life. This turns information back into information and keeps it from becoming a spiritual verdict. If a beautiful coincidence appears during the fast, smile and continue. The fast is not against beauty. It is against dependence. Let beauty bless the path without becoming the path. If fear says a sign is needed before action, answer with a smaller action. The fulfilled state does not always require a dramatic leap. Sometimes it asks for one email, one page, one honest conversation, 1 hour of work, or one night of sleep without surveillance. This is how the end becomes inhabitable. It moves from concept to conduct. The hands behave differently. The eyes stop scanning so hard. The breath lowers. The world is no longer forced to become a constant oracle. A final sentence can anchor the day. I welcome signs, but I do not need them to be myself. That sentence keeps wonder and restores authority. It lets the soul enjoy the world without becoming dependent on every flicker. The first relief of quitting sign chasing is boredom. That may sound disappointing, but it is holy. The nervous system has been trained to need constant sparkle, constant interpretation, constant little verdicts from the world. When that stops, ordinary life may feel flat for a moment. Let it. Boredom is often the withdrawal symptom of attention returning from addiction. Under the boredom, peace can begin to breathe. A person who has been living by signs may need a new relationship with time. Sign chasing chops time into tiny verdicts. This minute means yes, the next minute means no. This song means progress. This silence means failure. Living in the end restores longer time. It lets the state continue across an uneventful afternoon. It lets desire mature without being dug up every hour to check for roots. Theo discovers that the hardest part of his sign fast is not missing the signs. It is meeting the feeling beneath them. When he stops checking, he feels the raw uncertainty he had been covering with interpretation. That uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it is honest. Now the real practice can begin. He no longer needs to decode the world. He needs to inhabit the self who can live without decoding. This is why the no signs practice should include a replacement, not merely a prohibition. If you stop checking but do not enter the end, the old state will feel deprived and restless. Choose a fulfilled scene. Choose a daily action. Choose a line of inner speech. Give attention a home. The mind needs somewhere to live after it stops camping beside every omen. A useful replacement is service to the chosen state. Ask, what would serve the end today? If the end is creative success, serve it by creating. If the end is love, serve it by becoming more loving and self-possessed. If the end is financial steadiness, serve it by making a clear plan or learning a needed skill. Service turns the state into action without asking signs to supervise. The practice also benefits from scheduled wonder. This may sound strange, but it helps. Leave room for beauty without making beauty a judge. Walk outside and notice light, sound, color, and coincidence as life, not as a courtroom. A purple sky can be a purple sky. A repeated phrase can be interesting. A sudden memory can be tender. Not everything has to be hired as a messenger. The old state may protest that this makes life less magical. In truth, it makes magic less desperate. Wonder returns when it is not forced to prove something every 5 minutes. The world becomes spacious again. You can enjoy a symbol without clinging to it. You can receive a synchronicity without needing another one immediately. You can let mystery be mystery while identity remains chosen. Living in the end also means accepting the ordinary maintenance of a state. The end is not sustained by excitement alone. It is sustained by how breakfast is eaten, how work is done, how a delay is handled, how a body is cared for, how a conversation is approached. These ordinary details may not feel like signs, but they are where the state becomes flesh. For someone trying to heal a relationship pattern, the no signs experiment might mean not reading old messages for hidden prophecy. It might mean not checking whether a song confirms contact. It might mean returning to self-respect, warmth, and honest communication. The end is not proved by a lyric. It is practiced by the person you become when no lyric arrives. For someone building money stability, the experiment might mean not interpreting every coin found on the sidewalk as proof and every expense as disaster. It might mean opening the numbers at a planned time, then closing them. It might mean doing one income-producing action without emotional theater. Living in the end becomes grounded enough to survive a spreadsheet. For someone pursuing creative visibility, the experiment might mean not using every view count as spiritual weather. Check analytics when useful, learn from them, then return to craft. The end is not the refresh button. The end is the creative identity that keeps showing up, improving, offering, and trusting the work enough to continue. If a sign appears that seems negative, practice the same discipline. Do not make it a king. Maybe it is information. Maybe it is noise. Maybe it is simply an event. Ask what the fulfilled state would do with it. That question keeps authority in the state rather than handing authority to interpretation. Sometimes the answer is action. Sometimes the answer is rest. Sometimes the answer is to stop dramatizing. A strong bedtime practice for this episode is to imagine walking past a wall covered in signs. Some are bright, some are confusing, some are blank. You do not stop to read them. You walk toward the door of the end. Your hand opens it. Inside, the atmosphere is settled. You are not waiting for permission anymore. Let that image repeat softly until the body understands the direction. The next morning, create one sign-free hour. No decoding, no searching, no refreshing for emotional permission. During that hour, live from the end in one concrete way. Make the call, clean the desk, write the page, answer with dignity, take the walk, prepare the meal, pay the bill. The state becomes believable because it is lived without applause. By the end of the day, ask a better question than "Did I get a sign?" Ask, "Did I live 1 hour from the end without needing a sign?" That is a far stronger measure. It shows whether the state is becoming home or remaining a tourist destination visited only when the universe appears to send a postcard. The final correction is tender. Signs are not bad. Dependence is the bondage. If a meaningful pattern appears, receive it lightly. Smile. Give thanks if that is natural. Then keep living. The fulfilled state does not need to squeeze the symbol until fear comes out. It can let beauty bless the path and still keep walking. There is a difference between guidance and compulsion. Guidance leaves a clean impression and usually points toward a sane next step. Compulsion demands repeated checking and punishes quiet. If a supposed sign makes the body frantic, pause before obeying it. The end state does not need panic to deliver instruction. Another recovery practice is to remove one oracle from the day. Maybe it is social media. Maybe it is a search phrase. Maybe it is an old message thread. Maybe it is analytics. Remove the oracle for one day and notice what feeling rises. That feeling is the material for assumption. Enter the end there, where dependence used to hide. If the mind asks for signs because it feels lonely, answer the loneliness directly. Sit with the body. Put a hand on the heart. Let the chosen state become companionship. Much sign chasing is not about information. It is about wanting not to feel alone with desire. The fulfilled state can offer presence before evidence arrives. A sign-free life is not a dull life. It is a freer life. The senses return to the world without constantly interrogating it. Food tastes like food. Work feels like work. A friend's laugh is not turned into a prophecy. The sky is allowed to be sky. This ordinary permission is part of Sabbath rest inside the end. Theo eventually notices that the project improves when he stops treating signs as management. His decisions become cleaner. His work sessions lengthen. His sleep improves. He can use data without being used by it. The end has not become less mystical. It has become more embodied. It lives in his schedule, not only in his interpretations. Before closing, choose one permission slip to retire. Name it plainly. I no longer need this metric to be myself. I no longer need this coincidence to trust the state. I no longer need this reply to decide my worth. Retiring one permission slip is a powerful act. It returns authority to the assumption. One final misunderstanding should be cleared away. Living without sign dependence does not mean becoming cynical. Cynicism is another form of fear. The aim is not to flatten life, but to stop making life prove the state every hour. Wonder can remain, devotion can remain, beauty can remain, dependency is what leaves. A practical phrase can help during the day. This may be beautiful, but it is not my authority. Use it when a coincidence appears. Use it when an apparent negative sign appears. Use it when the mind wants to build a whole theology out of a small event. The phrase returns authority to the chosen state. If sign chasing has been tied to a specific desire, the first sign-free day may feel unusually exposed. That exposure is useful. It reveals where the desire has been mixed with fear. Breathe there. Enter the end there. Let the exposed place become the place where assumption is actually practiced rather than performed. The ordinary world becomes more trustworthy when it is no longer forced to speak in code. A cup can be washed. A page can be written. A walk can be taken. A message can be answered. None of these need to be signs. They can be expressions of the end because the person doing them has accepted the state. Before sleep, release the scoreboard. Let the day be complete without decoding it. If something meaningful happened, let it be a blessing. If nothing obvious happened, let that be rest. The end does not vanish because the day was quiet. Quiet may be the very atmosphere in which the state becomes stable. The closing instruction is gentle but firm. Stop asking symbols to do the work of assumption. Enter the end, then live the next hour. That hour lived cleanly is stronger than 100 permission slips gathered from passing details. If only one sign is needed now, let it be the quality of your own state, not as a new obsession, but as a gentle compass. Does this practice return dignity? Does it make action cleaner? Does it allow rest? If yes, continue. If it makes panic louder, simplify and return to the end. Living in the end is quieter than chasing signs, and the quiet may feel unfamiliar. Give the quiet time. The nervous system may need to learn that peace is not absence and ordinary time is not abandonment. The end can live in ordinary time. In fact, it must. Let tomorrow contain fewer omens and more embodiment, fewer permission slips, more clean action, fewer emergency interpretations, more chosen state, fewer anxious searches, more direct participation in the life that is here. The final image remains the same, walking past the signs, not because they are evil, but because the door is open. Enter the end. Let life speak when it speaks. You do not have to stand outside decoding the weather. The urge to decode may return tomorrow. Let it return to a wiser self. Smile at the old habit if possible. Then ask what living in the end would do next. Do that next thing, even if it is small. Each sign-free action teaches the body that permission was never outside. The end is not waiting inside a symbol. It is waiting inside the state you are willing to occupy now. A person can retire sign chasing gradually. Start by choosing the most exhausting category of sign. Maybe it is response timing. Maybe it is repeated numbers. Maybe it is analytics. Maybe it is dreams. For one day, remove that category from authority. Do not remove it from existence. Remove it from the throne. During that day, replace decoding with devotion to the end. Devotion may look plain. Prepare the work. Care for the body. Speak honestly. Keep the promise made to yourself. Read something that strengthens the chosen state. Clean the room. Go to bed on time. These acts may not sparkle, but they build a place where the end can live. If the mind complains that this is less exciting, agree gently. Yes, it is less exciting than chasing omens. It is also less exhausting. The end is not always adrenaline. Sometimes it is the calm capacity to continue without being entertained by uncertainty. That calm capacity is a form of power. Sign chasing often hides a fear of ordinary action. It is easier to interpret a symbol than to send the proposal. It is easier to search for a hint than to have a conversation. It is easier to call anxiety intuition than to choose. Living in the end brings the practice back to the next honest movement. The next honest movement should be small enough to do today. Do not make it grand. A single page, a single reply, a single budget line, a single hour without checking. When action is small, the old state has less room to dramatize it. The end enters through the ordinary door. By night, review the day without turning the review into another sign hunt. Ask, where did I live the end? Where did I ask for permission? What will I practice tomorrow? These questions create learning without obsession. They let the state mature through awareness and return. A useful image for the sign-free hour is a hand releasing a stack of tickets. Each ticket says, permission, permission to trust, permission to rest, permission to act. Watch the tickets fall. Then notice that the body is still here, breathing, capable of choosing. The permission was never in the tickets. This image can be used whenever the mind starts bargaining with the next coincidence. Release the ticket. Return to the end. Ask for the next embodied step. The end may be quieter than the ticket, but it is more stable. The more this is practiced, the more the world regains its beauty, not because every object becomes a message, but because objects are allowed to be themselves. A less desperate mind can actually see more. The closing measure is not whether the day produced enough symbols. The measure is whether the state was lived without needing symbols to authorize it. That is a quieter victory and a stronger one. A person who can live one ordinary hour from the end has begun to move from dependence into actual occupancy. Let the last act be returning authority to the end. The world can still be mysterious. Symbols can still be beautiful, but the state does not need to beg them for identity. That is the freedom offered here. Wonder without dependence, action without permission slips, and rest without constant decoding. If tomorrow brings a symbol, receive it lightly. If tomorrow brings none, continue anyway. The end is not fragile enough to vanish in quiet weather. It remains available in silence, in routine, in simple work, and in the honest breath taken before checking again. Let that breath be the new permission. Let the next grounded action be the sign that matters most for now. A life lived from the end will always be stronger than a life spent asking symbols whether the end is allowed, approved, or safe to enter. Let that strength become the quiet proof carried into tomorrow, steadily and without spectacle, one ordinary choice at a time, with patient inward trust. The end can be lived quietly today. No omen has to announce it. No coincidence has to certify it. The next calm action can carry the whole assumption, and that is enough for this hour. If the mind reaches for another symbol, give it a task from the fulfilled state instead. Fold the laundry, write the page, make the call, close the app. Let embodiment become the answer that signs used to provide.